what I'm seeing and hearing and feeling kind of in the industry of like, just get through it and be better. We have conversations about all these things all the time of like revenue management and customer experience and, how do we acquire that customer and how do we acquire them in a scalable way and how do we drive our views? And I mean, all these things that we're constantly obsessing about, right?
Welcome to the Turndown. Today, we dive into the dynamic world of hospitality and real estate in Cloudbits's hometown, San Diego. With Adam Dailey, a seasoned investor with a fascinating background from Olympic trials to boutique hotels. San Diego is a very dynamic destination with the largest hotel pipeline of the US 25 or top US 25 markets, according to STR. 2,900 rooms in construction, another 2,200 rooms in final planning. San Diego has 13,000 Airbnb listing and only 2,000 available homes for sale. Let's explore the current state of the market with Adam, from Airbnb's trends to challenges of securing loans, and unpack the unique charm of San Diego's hospitality scene. Adam shares his insights on what makes a successful hotel investment, the impact of technology on guests, and even his favorite taco spot. Hi there. Welcome to the Turn. Adam, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. Welcome today.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to kick it off with our standard opening question, which is, what is keeping you up at night these days?
I think what keeps me up is kind of the future of, I guess, the business of hospitality with regards to kind of my future deals. I'm a real estate investor and I kind of take down these deals where I buy these boutique hotels or Airbnbs, and it's just becoming harder right now. Banks don't want to lend, and it's harder to pro forma things with the uncertainty going on, and so that really keeps me up. It's not kind of my current portfolio as much as like what's next, right?
So what is changing from your perspective? I mean, you've been in this business for some time, right? You must be seeing something that is probably causing headwinds for your operations.
I mean, I think it's, 2024 wasn't like the best year for hospitality. It wasn't bad necessarily, but it's not this like, going up in this curve that we would like to see necessarily. So people are a little strange, I've just found, in terms of investors, in terms of partners, in terms of banks, especially on, like I said, on the banking side. It's just like, generally speaking, most banks don't want to touch hospitality anyway. Like in general, a bank, probably 85% of the banks are like, oh, we don't know enough about it to deal with it. And what we're just seeing now is just like everyone's like kind of pencils down in general, not just with hospitality, but in general, because they're just like, they don't know what's going on. Everyone thought with this one election, this was going to happen, and that's not quite happening yet. And so I think it's just the uncertainty. I think everyone, that's what it is. It's not like people are scared necessarily, but they're just kind of weirded out and they don't know what's next, right? So they're not going to underwrite things. And so that's kind of what we're seeing, is just like the banks are causing like a bit of like panic down.
And is this panic recently? Like, is this, we have to kind of talk about the election probably, right? A little bit. Is this like last 12 months, last 6 months, last 3 months? Give me a sense for.
Yeah. I mean, I would say when Trump was elected, I would say there was all this like, oh, it's going to be good. The economy's going to be good. Like, this might be bad in other ways, but he's going to fix the economy. We're going to have the stock market up, everything, interest rates, because he's a real estate investor. Everything's going to be great. Free tacos for everybody, right? And I think we saw a bump for like 10 days or something, right? But then it's just this uncertainty. It's like, what does it all really mean? And so I think banks were really excited in the beginning, and then interest rates didn't come down. So they're like, well, if interest rates aren't coming down, then we're going to get, more conservative again. And so I think it's just this environment where no one's like scared. That might not have been the right word. I don't think people are scared. They're just like unsure of where we're going in all this, right? And so I think nobody wants to get caught in a bad deal, including myself. And so that's kind of, like I said, what's keeping me up at night. And I usually have 4 or 5 deals kind of in the hopper that I'm working on. I have a couple right now, but they're not like exciting enough to where it's like I'm going to push through and get this done no matter what. Whereas I've had those in the past.
You're operating mostly in San Diego area. Is that fair?
Yeah, all in San Diego County.
Let's talk about San Diego as a destination, right? Like, I mean, you're in hospitality there. A lot has happened since I've been coming to San Diego, probably 25 years ago for the first time. It has seen a significant boom, I assume, as a city. What else has changed in San Diego in the last few years?
Obviously pricing has gone up, and we've seen a lot of like change in the market because after COVID, because a lot of San Francisco and LA people moved down to San Diego, and we didn't have that huge, outflux of people leaving like some other places on the West Coast, like Portland and Seattle, and like I said, San Francisco. I mean, for us in the hospitality industry, San Diego is unique because it is like a Barcelona or even a Las Vegas or something where it's like there's conferences, people are coming year round. I mean, people are coming in January because they want to get out of, wherever they are, Nebraska or anywhere because it's good weather. And they also come in the summer because it's good weather. It's not hot like it is Florida or something like that. So it's like, even though obviously we have seasonality, a ton of it in San Diego in terms of the hospitality industry and rates and things like that, it's still, there's nothing where it's like nobody's coming. There's always business travelers coming. There's always people coming for vacation. So that's our thesis of why we're in San Diego and why we invest in San Diego is because it's like even in the bad months we can still pay the bills, right? We don't have to write a check in the bad months, whereas I know some other regions they write checks to stay open. And so it's like if we can make it in the winters here, then we can crush in the summers.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And your portfolio, which I found fascinating, is covering vacation rentals, hotels, and hostels, right? Like you've played in almost every type of hospitality. What's your favorite?
I haven't thought about it like that. I mean, I'm not like the best operator. So it's like for me, I like the deal part. I like figuring out how to fix this hotel up and how to finance it and which partners we should bring in. And then when the place is done, my passion isn't continuing to operate. My passion is going and finding kind of the next deal. So for me, it kind of depends on, it depends on the opportunity. It's like this latest deal we did was a 18-room hotel in Mission Beach, and it's might be one of the best locations in all San Diego. So it's like, it was very exciting because everyone knows where it is. And it's this, like I said, it's this amazing kind of location and opportunity, but it's not easy. It wasn't the easiest deal. It wasn't like the biggest like slam dunk in terms of like the financing or the basis or the price I bought it for. So, sometimes my favorite deals are like ones I know I bought really well on, or sometimes my favorite deals are the ones I don't do anything with, but still kick back money to our investors without ever doing anything. So it's fun to have, boutique hotels. And obviously with those, we don't worry as much about kind of the regulations. That there's a lot of uncertainty around short-term rentals in general. You think you're in a good spot, but then something can change 2 years later. And it makes it tricky with, when you're underwriting or when you're bringing on investors or something like that, because you can't just have those types of assets like pencil out just as hospitality, right? So if you buy a house and it doesn't pencil out as a long-term rental, there's a lot of factors out of your control, right in that component. So to me, I would never want to buy something where it doesn't have like a B and a C plan, like a couple backup plans to work and survive.
And have more avenues potentially for revenue, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what COVID taught us, right? I mean, we had a boutique hotel in the heart of San Diego and it was empty. If we wouldn't have gotten rid of some of the kitchenettes, we would have had some deals with the city where we could have got some of their workers, or I don't know if it was homeless people. I can't remember what it was, but there was a lot of need for housing, but we didn't have kitchenettes, right? Or any kind of kitchen because they were small hotel rooms. And so now one of those things I always try and think of is like, can we put a kitchenette in here? Is there enough room just to put a small basic kitchenette type of thing? Because then I can de-hedge some of the risk on it, or I can have a backup plan. If another COVID hits, I can put people in here for 30, 60, 90 days type of thing.
Makes sense. You equated San Diego to Barcelona to a certain extent. And when I look at the hotel portfolio in San Diego, it's much more independent than I would say the average North American city. Why do you think that is?
I mean, San Diego, it's like one of these, like it's on the radar, but it's not. It's kind of scrappy. I mean, the people, you just don't meet a ton of people from San Diego, I guess. And so it's like this like forgotten culture in a lot of ways that we like it like that. I mean, the residents and the people who live here don't want to promote or feel the need to promote San Diego, everywhere.
For you, it's the best kept secret. Like
it is. And like I said, everyone's been to San Diego, but the unique thing about San Diego, in my opinion, without going on a tangent, just how much I love San Diego is just that, like, I lived in Barcelona for 3 years as well. I see some parallels too in terms of neighborhoods of like, you go to this one neighborhood over here and you go to a neighborhood 2 miles away and you're like, I can't believe these are in the same city. Like they feel different.
Mhm.
The people look different. They dress different. The restaurants are different. The architecture is different. And I I think that's what makes a great city in general, right? Is having this uniqueness and when you go in neighborhoods and not feeling, everything's like so vanilla.
Okay, and how does that translate then to the, I guess, hotel culture of independent versus, you know, the Wyndhams, the Choices, the of which there are fewer in San Diego than there are independent hotels.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is there's some regulatory kind of challenges, I think, in California in terms of development and in terms of changing things, in terms of moving forward. So it's like getting a 300 room hotel in San Diego is probably harder than almost anywhere in the country, I would assume, because of you have to deal with coastal commission and you have to deal with the city and you have to deal, and you're talking about years and years and years and years of, I mean, if you were wanting to do something like that, I would imagine it'd take 5 to 10 years at least.
So the
So
red tape is enormous
yeah,
to go
which
through.
is which is the opportunity for a lot of people too, because I mean, most people want to stay out of California, right? But if you can deal with the politics, then in the bureaucracy and the red tape, then there's some good opportunities if you're patient.
Yeah. We have many hoteliers on the program that are either looking at expanding or, they have one or two properties and are looking at acquiring a new or expanding, right? Because they feel they have a winning formula. What are you looking for from an investor perspective when you look at a hotel business as an opportunity? What are some of the things that you're really spending time on understanding?
It's obviously a cliche to talk about location, 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 but I don't want to apologize for the location. I don't want to sell I don't want to attract people to this new location because it's going to be great. And I don't want to be part of that group, that lobbying group that's like, no, trust me, this neighborhood's going to be great in 15 years. I'll get on the board and I'll help attract people. So it's like, I ran an events business for a long time and people would always come to me and tell me, you should, instead of the Olympics, you should do this festival over here in Germany or whatever. And I'd be like, dude, I don't sell I'm wait till the events are coming to me and there's already demand for it. So that's part of it, is the location is you're not apologizing for the location off the bat. And another component for me personally is I'm always looking for this value add opportunity, right? So if someone came in and they fixed it all up and it's beautiful and they've leveraged ADRs and it's just like, here it is, right? That's not my type of deal, because I want it ugly, right? I want it to where I can come in and put my touch on it and where I can take ADRs and double them or whatever, right? Because they're not because the design is bad, they're operating it poorly or something like that. So for me, it's a big value add in addition to location. That's the main things I look for, right? And in addition to go ahead.
So it has to be something where you see the opportunity, but it's not perfect. Like you want to come in and change it to give it that extra value that will come from your expertise, from your experience, and by you changing the mattress, the coat of paint, the shower head, you can immediately extract, I don't know, whatever the amount is, an extra value. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's whatever value add. It's like, oh, they have this huge area out back that they're not using we could put, a tiki bar with hot tubs and whatever. It's it's a space as well as a room, as well as an experience, as well as, like I said, when they have horrible operators, I'm like, oh, this is good. I love dealing with crazy bad operators, right? Because it's like they know they're bad operators, but they don't know how to get out of their own way. And so it's like, that's where it is for me. Like I said, where the opportunities are is finding these nasty kind of beat up places and that nobody else wants, right? So because San Diego is competitive in terms of what I do and looking at these properties. So it's like the uglier the better, I kind of always joke.
What's the project you're most proud of?
That's a good question. Like I said, I just mentioned the Mission Beach one. That was a pretty good one. It was a very hard deal to get through, and it was, like I said, the things were changing with the economy and it just wasn't, it was not a steal of a deal. I mean, we bought it pretty expensive, so, but we're really making it work well, and it's finished and the product is beautiful. And so it's usually I'm kind of like boutique-y, but also like, I don't want to say transactional, but like with the Airbnbs, we're like, it's focused on quality. It's focused on unique stays, the experience. Whereas like a lot of our hotels it's more of a commodity, right? It's like, it's a really good hotel, but it's got a little better reviews than the one next door. And it might be $5 cheaper. So you're going to go there and you're going to have a good time. You're going to be satisfied, but you might not tell your best friends, like, you got to go visit this hotel the next time you see San Diego. Whereas like the new one we did in the Boardwalk Hotel in Mission Beach, it's one of those like you would tell your best friend, like, you got to stay here. It's a really great location. It's awesome. The people are awesome. You can go to walk everywhere. There's free bike rentals. Like, it's just a great kind of brand already.
Nice, nice. Is there a deal you lost that you regret losing?
Yeah, I mean, there's always those types of deals, and ironically, one or two of them sometimes come back. And sometimes when they come back, though, I've had a couple where they're like $1 million more than when you saw it a year or two ago, and you just like the pride or whatever it is gets in your way. You're like, no, I can't buy it. I can't look at this deal for 800,000 more than it was a few years ago, and they still didn't do a good job of fixing it up. It's like I always think of like these deals of like you can't get too emotional in these transactions as well. You have to be a little emotional to get the fish on the hook, I guess you could say. But like, I remember the first time I did eBay, probably whatever that was, 1995, and I was buying a laptop, and I was like, this is the laptop. This is the one. I got it, and it's $500, and I'm bidding on it, and I lost. And I was like, oh man, that was it. That was the laptop I wanted, and I was so disappointed. And then like 10 minutes later, I looked again and basically found the exact same laptop, another auction. It's same price. Like, it's just. But there was this emotion for me of like, I wanted to win that transaction, and I was disappointed when I didn't win. And so I think about that a lot as I'm like, as you're underwriting like a hospitality product too, like it's easy to get in your spreadsheet and then kind of manipulate it, right? Like you self-sabotage yourself because you're like, well, this really needs, these ADRs are 120, but they need to be 140, but I think they could be 140. I think I could actually do better than, what I was thinking about earlier. So yeah, I'm going to change it to 140. And it's tough when you do that, right? When you get too emotional about these transactions.
I want to take a step back and understand how you became Adam Dailey in your current role, right? Like, you have a background in sports, right? You were a vivid traveler. What formed you the most, let's say?
So like you mentioned, I was an athlete. I competed in the U.S. Olympic trials. And a few years after that, I got an opportunity to buy Olympic tickets from the U.S. Olympic Committee, which I did, not really thinking much about it. I just bought a few $1,000s worth of tickets, not knowing whether I'd make the team or what, or if I just would sell them on eBay or whatever I would do. But I did take those tickets. I forgot about them for a year. And then I was kind of miserable in my, job at that point in 2003. And it was like, I'm moving to Athens and I'm going to set up an Olympic business with all the tickets I bought. I'm going to book a hotel and just sell them to my friends and their family. Sell them to athletes' families. And I ended up selling to a lot more than just kind of my network. And that started me in kind of, I guess you could say, the Olympic hospitality business, which I did for another dozen years or so, where I would move around to Torino, Italy, and Vancouver, Canada, and set up offices
Sounds
in
terrible.
London. And no, it was great for a while, especially the places where those events were.
Mhm.
I loved Europe. I had kids born out of the country, and I remember in Vancouver we spent $1 million on a hotel, and I was like, man, I want to be the guy who owns the hotel. Like, that guy just made $1 million in a month on this on this Ramada hotel. I was
And
just
this
like,
was your room block or something at the
yeah,
time,
I was
right?
buying it for $1 million and trying to sell it for more, right? But I had a lot of risk, and it was a big deal. It was a huge deal for me at the time. And I just remember thinking like, dude, I want to be and I liked the idea of buying that for a month and selling it out for 3 nights, 4 nights, 10 nights to these different, the Canadian hockey team or whatever. I kind of liked the game, the transaction game too. So, and I liked the idea of like, you can get your butt kicked today, but tomorrow you have a whole opportunity to resell out again. So that I think started me in kind of this hospitality thing, right?
Fast forward from Olympic to real
Fast
estate
forward,
investor.
yeah. So I had a couple houses in Little Italy, a neighborhood here, and was just doing well on Airbnb with them. One of them was an office, or it was supposed to be an office, and it wasn't renting as an office. And I was like, man, I looking at this new Airbnb thing, and I think I can actually make more money renting it as an Airbnb than we were doing as an office. And so I did, and then we got the lease for an office, and I'm like, after 6 months, I'm like, dude, we're making 50% more as an Airbnb. So we just kept it as an Airbnb, and I ended up, so we sold that and then transitioned that into a boutique hotel. And then just, like I said, it kind of the same idea, I guess, of like, look, if I can build more economies of scale and take some of these learnings, take some of these investors, take some of these banking relationships, just all of it, and kind of buy more properties is kind of that was again the thesis I think I had in my head all along.
So the skills you developed early on when you packaged Olympic tickets with, stay accommodation, that's still something you're leveraging today, right?
Hmm.
You're still looking
Yeah, and
for opportunity.
it's something you think about all the time, right? I mean, we in our industry, we stay in hotels, and
Mhm.
it's like I have kids that I travel quite a bit with, and you're always looking at what people are doing, right? You're looking in the lobbies and you're noticing things. You're at Airbnbs, you're like they're doing this manually versus automatically, or vice versa, right? Or oh, this is a nice touch. They put fresh flowers on the table, or oh man, they really messed this up by not bringing in the trash cans, or whatever it is, right? To me, it's like it's about kind of being a student as well, because I love traveling. I always have loved travel, and so I want to, I like, the opportunity to have an impact with someone too. So that's why it's a little more fun to own those properties that are more experiential, more fun, more unique, and that they will tell their friends about versus the other properties that are just kind of transactional.
Now, when we talk to operators, and I think you're an operator too, right? You own or you're involved in a property, they're facing very different challenges, right? Banks are maybe less prevalent, or the day-to-day challenges on banking is maybe less important to them. But they talk to us about, I have labor shortages, my cost of, operating, is increasing left and right. I don't know how to source and secure my next guest. I'm spending a fortune acquiring them. Their challenges are growing left and right. Do you see the
Yeah.
same thing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's why I was saying it's getting tougher, and
Okay.
I think part of that I didn't say earlier was that with the uncertainty, there's also less people going like, oh, I want to spend $20,000 in July on a vacation right now, right? And they might spend that $20,000 vacation in July, but they're probably not going to decide till June or July, because they're not certain. So it's like the booking cycle has changed, as well as just, yeah, I mean, people aren't spending, not the super luxury, but the kind of what, the nice houses that we have that used to rent for $1,500 or $2,000 a night. Those same houses are renting for half of that, and we're okay with that. We feel good about that, but you're like, it's still 50% of what the height was a couple of years ago. And so I think, yeah, and the labor thing is huge, and especially if you're running a service business, right? And you have a 5-hour window to clean a place or whatever, right? And someone calls in sick. I mean, it's a huge problem. So I think it's all troubling, and I think that's probably why there's less kind of going back to the banking and going back to the sale. I mean, there's less kind of transactions because people are just like, man, this is just put your head down and do the best you can right now, is kind of what I'm seeing and hearing and feeling kind of in the industry, of like, just get through it and be better. I mean, we have conversations about all these things all the time, of like revenue management and customer experience, and how do we acquire that customer, and how do we acquire them in a scalable way, and how do we drive our views, and I mean, all these things that we're constantly obsessing about, right?
And there are certain roles in hospitality that won't ever disappear. You talked about cleaning, 5 hours to turn things around. Are there roles that you see disappearing in hospitality, like, where tech can potentially replace people?
It depends how, like, what our time scale is, right? So it's like eventually, I would imagine that a robot will clean hotel rooms no problem, but that might be 3 years from now, it might be 10, whatever. I think there's also a certain layer of, like, not complexity, but how much service do you want? So if we're charging $180 for our place in the winter, and if people stay on a Tuesday and Wednesday night and they come in, they have a certain expectation of like, yeah, this is I have an expectation. That same room could go for 700, $800 a night in July, and that customer will have a very different expectation, right? So they do not want all text messages and to download an app. And if I want a towel and I'm spending that much, I want a towel in my room soon. I want to call or look out or whatever. I want a towel. I don't want to deal with someone in India on a chat, and then maybe my towel gets there the next morning or something like that. So I think the idea of service will be a differentiator, and I think it's a matter of, like, if you're the best, you're gonna have great service, and if you're the cheapest, you're probably gonna be all right too. So it's like where scary is in the middle, right? And figuring out that balance of, like, I just read about some resort that's got like a 12-to-1 staff to guest ratio, and they're crushing because they're charging $3,000 a night at some spa in the middle of nowhere.
Wait, 12 to 1, 12 employees, one guest?
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's $3,000 a night. It's in the middle of nowhere. So they just built this place, right, from
Hmm.
nothing. Apparently they're doing well. So it's like, I think about that and it's like, that's one extreme, right? And then, like I said, the other extreme is, everything's self check-in. You never see another person. And I think both have their places. It's a matter of where your product fits in the marketplace. And I think, having a level of service is always going to be important, of like, especially if things go wrong. If everything goes right, that's fine. But this also, like, what we found is like customer A can stay in room, this room, customer B can stay in this room, and they have very different expectations. B hates people. He wants to avoid the lobby and go straight to his room, and you will not see him ever. And then he'll check out and leave $20 for the cleaning staff. Customer A wants to know where they should eat that night, and, oh, hey, what can I get an extra key, and can we get more towels, and the hot water heater is not working. And so it's a matter of addressing both of those in the way they want their experience to go. And that's what we're learning about too with some of this automation.
You mentioned that you traveled a lot. I kind of feel that airlines have a leg up on when it comes to moving certain tasks away from people, right?
Hmm.
There are still some countries when you travel in Japan, there's 15 agents behind desks or waiting to service you, even at an airline counter, which is
Yeah.
great, but that's unusual, right? Like if I board a plane in San Diego, I have 500 kiosks in front of me before I talk to somebody. Is that the future of hospitality, in your opinion?
I mean, in a lot of ways, I hope so, because as a consumer, there's nothing more frustrating than I left my house at 8 in the morning and now in 5 p.m. at the hotel. I've been traveling all day and now there's 7 people in front of me at the line at the hotel. Like, all I want to do is go in my hotel room. Right. So there is a miss, I think, in that way, just of like not taking that into account. Right. In the beginning of my journey, I'm fine. I'm fine checking out of the hotel and maybe having to wait for a sec if that were the case. But again, I think it depends on the person, because that person might want, hey, I checked in with this credit card, but I'm changing a credit card, or hey, can you get me a lower level room or whatever? And then there's the other person who, like I said, is just like, dude, get me straight to my room. If I can cut through these 8 people and I've got everything. And a lot of these guys are doing this with the automatic keys and some of the bigger chains, which I do too. And I really like that experience of being able to avoid the front desk. But I think it's, with all this technology and AI and whatnot, I don't think we can really comprehend the changes, because they're exponential changes, and the human mind they can go linear in terms of improvement, because that's all we experience in our lifetime. But I think some of these, like that sort of saying with the robots cleaning rooms, that will for sure happen. And it could happen. It'll probably happen quicker than any of us think it will. Right. So.
Yeah, I can see it happening in Japan soon, or some country. Maybe it's already happening. We just don't know about it.
Yeah.
What's your biggest pet peeve as a guest? You must have stayed what, thousands and thousands of room nights or nights somewhere.
I would say overselling, under delivering. That was something we think about a lot, as well as, as a guest, I definitely do. I guess the check-in procedure of, because my kids are a little older, but when I had little kids, it was always like, can I check in at 2 instead of 3? And that way I can get my kid down for a nap. And either the non-response or the no, we're cleaning, but they're not cleaning. I'm totally cool if you really are cleaning up until 3, but a lot of times we stop in anyway at 1:30 and it's like, it's been cleaned for days, or, what I see sometimes now in hotels as a consumer is like, check-in is 3 and I get there at 4 and the room's not ready. And I'm like, dude, I gave you guys an extra hour. Like, this is not cool. Like, it's like, I get it. Like, I'm at the mercy when I'm checking in early, but I want to be addressed individually and not have some canned response. When it is past check-in time, I want to check in like that. Right.
You mentioned the chatbot that was serviced by an agent in India. Is that something that you think will completely move to an AI over time? Or are we there yet already, in your opinion?
Some of us are. Again, it's kind of, we deal with some different partners and some different operators that are very similar companies, and one's using AI, one's using 10 VAs in the Philippines, right? And they're doing the same things. And it's, the one thing I will say is the AI company is he'll eventually win, because even though right now, they're the same, it's like one's really scalable and one's not. When those 12 guys in Philippines get better job opportunities, or the internet goes out for a couple of days, or whatever happens, you're kind of back to square one. And so, we're spending a lot of time looking to see, it's like a lot of time. We're spending 30 hours how to solve a 20-minute problem that sometimes can drive you crazy, but you're like, all I got to do is figure it out this one time, and then we'll never have to discuss this problem again.
That's through AI,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the overseas thing, it just depends on the business. And, again, I think it depends on your product, who your clients are, what their expectations are.
I remember talking to a hotel owner recently who said his most successful and most productive hotel employees was sitting in the Philippines, right? And was doing check-ins, check-out reservations, answering the phone, pretending to be on site at the reception, whatever it is. The only reason he wanted to hire local, the only reason that he didn't hire local is where he couldn't find staff. Right?
Wow.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's not a salary thing. It's a mindset. And I don't have the labor available to me in the place that I'm operating, which is scary. It's crazy.
It's for sure. It's scary. I think they just passed a thing here saying hospitality workers are going to get $25 an hour right now in San Diego.
Minimum wage or
minimum wage. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. It's scary as an operator because you're, that has to be made up somewhere, right? Like I said, in a lot of these organizations or these competitive hotels, or it's a race to the bottom in terms of their pricing, right? And so it's like there's, I like I said, when I'm looking at opportunities, I look at like hotels, but some of these hotels, you're like, they're so bad, but they're sold out like a lot, but even on Google, they're 3.2 or something like that, and you're like, man, who would ever stay here? But you're like, if you just need a place and your expectations are low, like I guess it works for some people.
I didn't know 3.2 existed, but okay, never mind.
On Google, like when
Yeah.
you Google it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
out
no.
of 5. It's out of 5. Yeah.
That is scary. But it sounds to me like the 25 that was just introduced, is that going to help, in your opinion, hoteliers, or is this just going to motivate them to, I guess, outsource or outshore? What's your opinion? What is that going to do?
I mean, the only way I could argue that it will help them is that we can be more competitive in getting better labor. And like now we're like, oh, you can make this much over here. But otherwise, I mean, again, I mean, most hotels aren't crushing it right now.
No.
I mean, in terms of like, I think if you took the pulse of kind of everyone, I think pricing has gone up significantly over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, like beating inflation even. But I think everything else has too. So it's like, I don't see this like this huge win for hoteliers. I think we're hoping that it continues kind of the momentum going forward, I guess you could say. But I think it's I don't think that everything increasing. I mean, power is going up, energy is going up, humans are going up, everything's going up. So yeah, hotel rates are too, but it feels very different as a consumer when I'm going like, man, I used to be able to get a hotel room for $100, and now knowing like on some of these properties, like I will lose money if I sell that room for $100 tonight. You know what I mean? So I think that's the challenge, right?
Or let's fast forward to the future, right? Like, let's start short. Your next trip with the family, where are you traveling to?
Like in real life?
In real life. Right?
Yeah, we're going to Austin at the end of the month for spring break.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. Travel in 2-3 years. What's different?
I think just like I said, automation makes, the travel experience smoother, I guess you could say. I mean, I use ChatGPT all the time when I'm traveling, right? Hey, I'm over here. I'm on the corner of this and this. I have 20 minutes, or I want to get to this museum, pick the coolest route. And ChatGPT knows me and knows the things I like, right? So they know, oh, go pass through a park or pass through this. And so I think that whole process gets way cleaner. I'm curious to know if like we said, we were talking about earlier, it's like when I was doing Olympic tours, people would book 2 years and 3 years in advance. And they'd be like, I'm going to track this night. I'm going to badminton the next morning. I'm going to take a day off. Whereas now people are booking, days before, right? Sometimes day out. Like I've many times got on a plane somewhere and not had my book, like not had a set where I'm staying, but I'm like, I'll book it on the plane, and that is becoming more normal, I think. So I think it's a combination of technology making things more seamless, and as you get the automation of like, oh, you want a car with your hotel after you book it. But I think it's just going to be a little less clunky, right? It knows what you want. It knows what you're used to doing, right? So this process just gets easier. You always rent a Tesla on Turo, right? So it's like, oh, it's going to book it for you eventually, right? Where it just will, and it knows you don't want to spend more than $40 a day on this Tesla or whatever it is, right? And so it's like you take all this out of it, or it knows you want free cancellation.
Nice.
So
So
that's kind of where I'm thinking.
more tech, less friction, ultimately.
Yeah, and it's a cliche again. I'm sure you guys talk about it all the time, but people want these experiences, right? So it's not just a hotel bed, right? And comparing this queen bed to a place around the block, it's like, oh, this one has this cool, rooftop bar, or this one, has a live band playing, on the patio every day for check-in or something like that, right? And, or free surfboard rentals or whatever it is. I think people are really into the experience, and I think that continues. It's getting a little too cliche in some ways. I mean, everyone's doing the glamping and things right now, right? But I do think that's a trend that seems to want to continue.
Is there anything in your opinion that will disappear from the hotel room?
Phones.
Phones? Okay. No more phones. Replaced by anything?
Maybe maybe an iPad or something like that, where you can, get what you want out of the room. Maybe, if it's like on the wall or something, your iPad that has everything, right? In terms of your room control, climate control, and things like that. Trying to think of what else that's a good question, would disappear. So from hotel room. So
I have to, before we end up, I have to talk a little bit about tacos in San Diego, and what your favorite taco joint is, because I'm still hunting for that best taco place. I've been going there for 15 years now, and still trying things out. But I'd love to hear yours.
I mean, I love Oscars.
Okay.
Tacos Gordos is obviously really good. If you go down further south towards the border, in Chula Vista or whatever, most of those places, or any place, is pretty good. I mean, I think it's like, I always joke, my analogy for other things is like, there's no bad taco shops in you can't survive as a bad taco shop in San Diego, because the market's gonna snuff you out, right? So, and I use that example for other things. So I'm trying to work backwards of what that analogy would be like, but I'm always like, yeah, you can't survive. So it's just, I mean, we have really good craft beer here. Same thing. If you opened up a crappy brewery, you'd just be out of business. So for the most part, the brewery, the level's pretty high. But yeah, I mean, we're eating fish tacos like at least a few times a week. Taco Tuesday is like a holiday in our family.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You live, of course, in a very, very amazing destination. If it is not San Diego, where would you travel to for vacation?
I mean, my go-to is probably Barcelona. It's got that special place in my heart. So yeah, I mean, I love Europe. I spent almost 10 years living in Europe. So Barcelona's a home base, and pretty much anywhere in Europe's fun. Italy, Greece.
Fantastic. Adam, thank you so much for joining the program today, sharing your thoughts, your insights, your story. It's a pleasure having you on the program.
Yeah, for sure. That's a fun conversation.
All right, take care. That brings us to the end of yet another episode of The Turndown. Huge thanks for all of you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Of course, this podcast wouldn't be possible without the amazing team behind the scenes. A massive shout out to the producers, Paula Cajero, Linda Pajai, Lana Cook, Ricky Sherman, and Ailey Fakuhasen for the incredible research and pre-production work, always keeping us on track. To Paulo Sanchez, thank you for your stellar audio editing and for making us sound so good. And finally, thank you to Ying Liu for her organizational talents and keeping the season on schedule, literally. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us for updates and bonus content. Until then, take care and stay curious.